It always begins the same way. She looks at you, not for who you truly are, but for who she believes you could become. You feel something behind her gaze, don't you? A glimmer of expectation, or is it desire? You think she's seeing your soul, but really, you're being evaluated, scanned, measured, like a blank canvas waiting for her to project her private masterpiece. But here's the cruel twist. That masterpiece was never really about you. Carl Jung saw this coming, and he didn't issue his warning with sweet words or soft guidance. He wielded his insight like a scalpel, precise, clinical, and unflinching. After decades of diving into the human unconscious, Jung discovered something most people are terrified of. Many women don't fall for a man. They fall for an idea of a man, a fantasy, a projection. And more terrifying still, they often don't even realize they're doing it. You might think you've been chosen, but what's actually happening is that you're being cast in a role she's written silently in her mind. You become a psychological actor playing a part you never auditioned for. And when you stop fitting that role, she doesn't change the story. She finds a new actor. Jung called this projection the Animus, an internal masculine figure that lives in every woman's unconscious. When this animus is immature or unrefined, it doesn't serve her. It dominates her. It hijacks her relationships, causing her to idealize dangerous men and reject those who are kind. It fuels irrational arguments, empty moral superiority, and a hunger for control disguised as passion. He didn't downplay it. Jung described this possession as spiritual in nature, a moment when the woman loses awareness of her authentic self and becomes consumed by an inner fantasy. And men? You fall for it because no one ever taught you to recognize the signs. You mistake being wanted for being known. You confuse being selected with being seen. You hear her say you're different, and you believe it, when really, you're just the newest face she's projected onto a role she's been rehearsing since childhood. And when the illusion breaks down, when the mask slips, you're left stunned, heartbroken, humiliated, asking yourself what you did wrong. But here's the truth. You didn't mess up. You simply stopped being a believable character in someone else's personal film. Jung believed there was only one way out of this psychological theater, through individuation, the long, painful journey of becoming whole. Most men never even start. Because from birth, you were taught to chase approval, to seek validation, to let others, especially women, decide your worth. As long as that continues, you'll keep stepping into the same role again and again, only to be discarded when the audience, her, gets bored. Individuation isn't glamorous. It's raw, ugly, and difficult. It forces you to face every part of yourself you've buried, the fear, the doubt, the weakness. It demands that you stop blaming her for not truly seeing you, and instead, start seeing yourself. Because here's the secret Jung understood that most men never will. Manhood doesn't begin the moment someone else picks you. It begins when you choose yourself. Your value isn't earned through her approval. It's forged when you stand alone, present, conscious, and fully alive. A man who's confronted his own unconscious isn't seduced by fantasy. He doesn't play a role. He writes his own story. He warned us. A man who neglects his inner evolution becomes a puppet to the fantasies of others, especially hers. He stops being a man and turns into something moldable, shapeless, a soft, obedient echo of what he thinks she wants. But here's the bitter twist. She doesn't even know what she wants. And still, you bend for her. You contort yourself into a role that was never yours to play, wearing a smile that hides how much of yourself you've buried just to be chosen. And she knows. Don't fool yourself. She senses the performance. The very things you offer to win her, your reliability, your emotional availability, your constant yes, those are the same things that quietly kill her desire. Why? Because comfort isn't what her instincts crave. Jung knew it. The feminine is drawn to the undefined, the unpredictable, the man she can't fully map or manage. The moment you give her everything, all at once, no mystery, no edge, no distance, you disappear. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, lethal one. You become forgettable, a placeholder, another man she once thought she wanted. And here's the trap. You'd rather be false than be alone. You'd rather betray yourself than feel the cold of her absence. You'd rather stay in character than step into the silence and be met with your own reflection. Because applause, even hollow, feels safer than being unseen. But Jung didn't romanticize solitude. He called it what it is: brutal, necessary, and non-negotiable. He said the path to becoming real requires death. Death of the persona, death of the people-pleaser, death of the part of you that was designed for approval. Only then, once the ashes settle, can something authentic rise. And let me break what's left of the silence. This path is lonelier than you expect. Not just quiet, but gut-wrenching. You begin to see through everything. The masks, the games, the lies people cling to so they don't have to look too closely at what's underneath. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You try to speak, they mock you. You become the cold one, the arrogant one, the man who doesn't play along. But you're not cruel, you're clear. And clarity terrifies people who've built their identity around distortion. You're the mirror, and most people would rather break the mirror than face their own reflection. Jung knew. He spent his life watching people tremble before their shadow, their denied hunger, their quiet rage, their unmet needs that fester in the dark corners of the psyche. And women? He saw something in them too. He saw how they were often protected from that confrontation, praised for their intuition, their emotion, their purity. He saw how the culture sold them a fantasy of completion that exempted them from looking inward. But beneath the surface lives the animus, that internal masculine voice twisted by neglect. And when a woman refuses to meet that part of herself, she doesn't just suffer. She turns it outward, onto you. You become the enemy in a battle she was meant to fight within. And you step in, thinking you'll save her, thinking that if you just love her hard enough, loud enough, well enough, she'll finally see you. But she can't, because she's not even seeing you, only the silhouette of her own unresolved war. Jung said it plainly: projection steals the real. It replaces flesh and truth with fantasy and echo. And unless both men and women learn to retrieve their own image from the shadow, they'll stay trapped in the same old play, pointing fingers, swapping blame, never realizing they're not enemies. Just ghosts, dancing with reflections in the dark. Here's the cruelest irony of them all. The same woman who once looked at you with admiration, who saw you as her rock, her rescuer, her ideal, one day she'll see you as the problem. Not because you changed, but because you failed to live up to the story she silently wrote about you. A script she never shared, a role you never agreed to play. And still, she'll resent you for not playing it flawlessly. And what's worse, she won't even know she's doing it. Jung saw this kind of betrayal coming long before we had words for it. He understood that when two people refuse to face their own inner world, they end up projecting their chaos onto each other. It's not a breakup. It's a breakdown of illusion. You didn't deceive her. You didn't betray her. You simply fell short of the myth she had crafted in her unconscious. A myth you never even knew existed. You weren't her enemy. You just weren't the fantasy. Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And nowhere is that more obvious than in modern love. We enter relationships not as full human beings, but as haunted echoes, carrying the weight of our unmet childhood needs, our unhealed wounds, our forgotten selves, hoping someone else will carry it for us. And we call it love, but Jung had another name for it: possession. You fall into it over and over again, convinced that this time, finally, the script will be different. But it isn't. Because you still haven't dared to ask the one question that tears everything open. What if I am the one building the trap? You want to blame women. You want to call them manipulative, narcissistic, shallow. But Jung would fix his gaze on you and ask, why did you let yourself be cast in her fantasy to begin with? Because you didn't have to be chosen. You volunteered. You signed up for a role you never read the ending to. Why? Because confronting your own inner void, your lack of selfhood, your buried grief, was more terrifying than disappearing into someone else's dream. And this, right here, is where most men turn away. This is where they stop listening. Because this is the point where the excuses die and the weight of responsibility finally lands. Jung didn't offer shortcuts, no quick tricks, no three-step path to confidence. He handed you a mirror and dared you to look into it. He demanded silence, solitude, and pain. He demanded you sit in the stillness of your own mind until the noise fades and the illusions start to fracture. Until that needy, trembling voice in your head that whispers, "You're nothing without her," begins to lose its grip. But don't be naive. That voice doesn't go quietly. It will scream. It will beg. It will tell you that without her love, without her gaze, without her validation, you'll die. But Jung's voice cuts through with something more dangerous, more liberating. He whispers that the man who can stand alone, without applause, without approval, without being wanted, is the man who is finally free. Free from illusion, free from codependence, free from being anyone's mirror except his own. And when you reach that place, when you finally arrive, you won't grow cold, you won't grow cruel, you'll grow real, grounded, still. You'll feel your feet on the earth again. And strangely enough, that's when women will be drawn to you. Not because you chase them, but because you don't. And you'll smile, not out of bitterness, but because you finally get it. You understand, she has her own work to do, her own shadows to face, her own illusions to shatter. You can't do it for her. You were never meant to. All you can do is what Jung did. Walk your path with such clarity, such fire, that you become a living mirror. A mirror so clear, so honest, it scares most people. But the few who are ready, they'll thank you. Silently, fiercely. And that, right there, is the great divide between being loved for the mask you wear and being respected for the man you refuse to stop becoming.